The Galactic tried to force humanity to kneel. The Black Armada made them burn. The message arrived on every screen, every device, every communication system that humanity possessed. It came without warning, bypassing every security protocol Earth had established since making contact with the stars 15 years ago. The face that appeared was not human. Supreme Archon Velrith of the Galactic Sovereignty stared out from a billion screens with his 4 golden eyes, his scaled face expressionless in the way only a reptilian species could manage. Behind him, the symbols of 47 different alien species rotated slowly, representing the mighty coalition that controlled most of the known galaxy. Humans of Earth, Velrith began, his translator rendering his words in perfect English. Your time of independence has ended. The sovereignty has observed your species with patience and concern. You are violent. You are unpredictable. You are a threat to galactic peace. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the broadcast from her office in Geneva, her jaw tight. She had known this was coming. They all had. From the moment humanity's first colony ship had ventured beyond Sol and encountered the Sovereignty's patrol fleet, she had known that peace was temporary. You will dismantle 90% of your military vessels, Velrith continued. You will accept sovereignty oversight of your government. You will become a guided species, learning civilization from those who have mastered it for millennia. You have 72 hours to agree to these terms. The broadcast ended. For a moment, silence filled the world. Then the second message came. This one was a live feed. Admiral Chen felt her blood turn cold as she recognized the blue-green world on the screen. New Perth, humanity's first successful colony beyond Sol, home to 2.3 million people, farms and cities and families who had traveled light years to build something new. The Sovereignty fleet hung in orbit above it like dark angels of judgment. 12 massive warships, their hulls decorated with the peaceful symbols of the Galactic Coalition. We understand humans require demonstrations, Velrith's voice said calmly. Consider this motivation to choose wisely. The first beam struck New Perth's northern continent. Then another. Then a dozen more. The colony's shields lasted perhaps 30 seconds before collapsing. Admiral Chen watched in horror as the oceans began to boil, as the atmosphere caught fire, as 2.3 million human lives ended in minutes. When it was over, New Perth was a scorched ball of rock, still glowing red from the heat. 72 hours, Velrith repeated. Choose submission, or Earth will suffer the same fate. The broadcast ended. Admiral Chen sat motionless for exactly 10 seconds. Then she reached for her secure communicator and entered a code she had memorized 15 years ago, a code she had prayed she would never need to use. Protocol Nightfall is active, she said quietly. All assets to operational status. We always knew they would come for us eventually. Across Earth and throughout the Sol system, hidden facilities began to wake up. Asteroid bases that had been disguised as mining operations suddenly opened their true faces. Deep space construction yards that supposedly built civilian transports revealed weapons that should not exist. Secret laboratories where humanity's best minds had spent 15 years preparing for this exact moment began their final preparations. The world governments scrambled. President Okonkwo called emergency sessions. Chancellor Zhao proposed immediate compliance. The Jupiter colonies talked of resistance. Mars wanted to negotiate. Everyone had an opinion. Counselor Marcus Webb, Earth's chief negotiator, appeared on global broadcasts looking grave and concerned. We have no choice, he told the public. The sovereignty is too powerful. We must accept their terms to save our homeworld. It was a lie, a necessary lie. Behind closed doors, Webb met with Admiral Chen and the hidden leadership of Protocol Nightfall. How long can you keep them talking? Chen asked. I can stretch negotiations for 3 months, maybe 4, Webb replied. I'll ask for clarification on terms, dispute definitions, request cultural exceptions. They expect us to stall. They think we're looking for a miracle. We're not looking for a miracle, Chen said coldly. We've been building one for 15 years. She pulled up a holographic display. Webb saw ship designs unlike anything in the public military database. Sleek vessels covered in void black material that seemed to absorb light itself. Weapon systems with names like Quantum Shear and Reality Anchor and Nanite, Cascade, things that violated half the treaties humanity had signed with the Sovereignty. Treaties the Sovereignty had designed to keep humanity weak. When first contact happened, everyone was so excited, Chen said quietly. A galaxy full of peaceful species, civilizations that had moved beyond war. We were told to disarm, that we didn't need weapons anymore. She looked up at Webb with hard eyes. I didn't believe them. Neither did a lot of us. We remembered our history. We knew what happened to civilized people when the barbarians came. So you built an army in secret, Webb said. No, Chen corrected. We built something worse. We studied every species in the sovereignty. Their biology. Their psychology. Their tactics. We learned everything about them while they ignored us as primitives. She smiled without humor. They thought we were stupid, warlike apes. We let them think that. While they looked down on us, we were preparing to burn their entire civilization to ash if they ever threatened us. Webb swallowed. And now they have. Now they have, Chen agreed. Play your part, counselor. Make them think we're beaten. Negotiate like Earth's survival depends on your words. Meanwhile, we'll get ready to show them what humans do when someone murders our children. Over the next weeks, Webb played his role perfectly. He appeared on sovereignty broadcasts, his face haggard, begging for mercy. He argued over details. He asked for time. He made Earth look desperate and defeated. The sovereignty ate it up. They had won, and they knew it. Velrith graciously agreed to reasonable negotiations. After all, why rush? The humans were broken. They had no idea that every day of negotiations was another day for the Black Armada to prepare. In the asteroid belt, the first stealth warship completed its final weapons check. Then another. Then 20 more. Ships that had been built in absolute secrecy, designed by engineers who understood that sometimes survival meant building weapons that civilized species would call immoral. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of humanity's hidden war machine and watched the clock count down. The sovereignty fleet had gathered at Earth. 500 warships had arrived to witness humanity's formal surrender. To ensure the defeated apes bowed properly, they thought they were there to accept submission. Chen knew better. They were there to die. All ships report ready, her tactical officer said quietly. Then let's show them, Chen said, her voice like ice. What it means to threaten humanity. The trap was set. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The Galactic tried to force humanity to kneel. The Black Armada made them burn, the asteroid designated as mining station. Theta 7 looked exactly like what it was supposed to be. Rough rock surface. Equipment for extracting metals. A small crew habitat. Even the Sovereignty's advanced sensors had scanned it dozens of times over 15 years and found nothing suspicious. Those sensors had never looked deep enough. Commander James, Park floated through the hidden interior, watching final preparations. The outer 500 meters of the asteroid was real mining equipment. The inner 3 kilometers was something else entirely. Reactor at full power, his chief engineer reported. Weapons charged. Stealth systems active. Park nodded, looking at the massive ship that filled the asteroid's hollow core. The hull was covered in a black material that humanity had developed in absolute secrecy. Nano-engineered carbon matrices that didn't reflect light, didn't register on thermal scans, barely existed on gravitational sensors. The ship was designed to be a hole in space itself. This was one of humanity's Black Armada vessels. There were 73 more hidden throughout the Sol system. How long until deployment? Park asked. Admiral Chen wants us positioned in 72 hours. Once the Sovereignty fleet settles into Earth orbit for the surrender ceremony, we move. Park thought about New Perth. He had friends there. Emily Rodriguez, who had grown the first wheat crop on another world. Her husband. Their 3 kids, all dead, vaporized by the Sovereignty's so-called civilized species. They think they broke us, Park said quietly. His engineer smiled grimly. They have no idea what's coming. 15 years ago, when humanity had made first contact, most people had celebrated. Finally, they thought we were part of something bigger, a galaxy at peace. But some people had remembered history. Admiral Sarah Chen had been a captain then. She had studied how civilizations fell. Rome had been civilized too, and the barbarians had destroyed it. The Native Americans had been peaceful, and colonizers had slaughtered them. Being civilized didn't protect you. Being civilized made you a target. She had gone to Earth's government with a proposal that sounded insane. While humanity publicly disarmed and played nice with the Sovereignty, They would secretly prepare for war. Real war. The kind of total, ruthless war that civilized species didn't practice anymore. Most politicians had refused. But enough had listened. Enough remembered that peace was something you could only enjoy if you were strong enough to defend it. The Black Armada project was born. They had started with intelligence. Human agents had infiltrated sovereignty space, learning everything they could. They discovered that the 47 species of the sovereignty hadn't fought a real war in 3,000 years. Their military was for show, for intimidating primitive species into submission. They learned the biology of every species, discovered that the Velkhori, who made up the sovereignty's leadership, were vulnerable to certain frequencies of radiation, that the insectoid Chithrax couldn't survive if their hive queens were eliminated, that the aquatic Neradi had a centralized nervous system that could be targeted. Humanity cataloged every weakness, every vulnerability, and then they built weapons to exploit them. The quantum shear cannons could tear apart a ship's hull at the molecular level. The reality anchor bombs created fields where faster-than-light travel became impossible, trapping enemy fleets. The nanite swarms could consume a vessel from the inside out, reproducing exponentially. And then there were the biological weapons, carefully engineered viruses and bacteria designed to target specific alien species. Humanity had signed treaties promising never to develop such weapons. Humanity had lied. They wanted us civilized, Chen had told her inner circle. They wanted us peaceful and weak. So we showed them civilization. While we built weapons that would make our ancestors look merciful, the public didn't know. Earth's citizens had watched their military shrink, had believed the peace was real. Only a few thousand people knew the truth. That humanity had never stopped preparing for war, that every mining station, every research facility, every supposedly civilian installation had a secret purpose. The Black Armada had cost trillions. Money had been hidden in bureaucratic budgets diverted from other programs, secretly funded by corporations and governments who understood the necessity. For 15 years, humanity had lied to itself and the galaxy. Now that lie was about to pay off. Admiral Chen stood in her command center, deep beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in the Sol system. The Sovereignty fleet hung in Earth orbit, confident and relaxed. 500 warships, more than enough to crush any resistance. They didn't know that 74 Black Armada vessels were positioned in the outer system, invisible and waiting. Status report, Chen ordered. All ships ready. Admiral, her tactical officer replied. Counselor Webb is scheduled to make the formal surrender announcement in 6 hours. The Sovereignty wants a ceremony. Lots of witnesses. They want to humiliate us, Chen said coldly. They want every human to see us kneel. She thought of New Perth again, of the footage that had played on every screen. Children dying, cities burning, an entire world murdered as a demonstration. The Sovereignty thought they were teaching humanity a lesson about power. They were about to learn a much harder lesson about revenge. What they don't understand, Chen continued, is that humans are very good at holding grudges. We remember every slight, every injustice, every threat. She looked at her officers. Our entire history is revenge stories. We tell our children about it. We build monuments to it. The Sovereignty killed 2.3 million of us and expected us to submit. She smiled. And it was not a pleasant expression. They forgot to ask what humans do when you murder their families. The countdown continued. Counselor Webb played his part perfectly on the surface, looking defeated and broken. He agreed to every Sovereignty demand. He scheduled the surrender ceremony for maximum viewership. He even thanked Supreme Archon Velrith for his mercy. Below the surface, the war machine hummed with anticipation. The Black Armada began moving into position. They traveled slowly, using minimal power, letting the black hulls hide them in the darkness of space. The Sovereignty sensors never saw them. Why would they? The humans were beaten. There was nothing to fear. Admiral Chen received the final reports. Every ship was in position. Every weapon was charged. Every soldier knew their duty. She thought about the speech she would give after this was over, about how she would justify the things humanity was about to do, the weapons they would use, the tactics they would employ. Then she thought about New Perth again and stopped caring about justifications. All ships, she broadcast on the encrypted network. This is Admiral Chen. In 6 hours, the sovereignty expects us to surrender, to kneel before them like obedient dogs. They think we're beaten. She paused. Show them what happens when you underestimate humanity. Show them what humans do to tyrants. Make them burn. Across the Sol system, 74 warships that shouldn't exist prepared to reveal themselves. Humanity's secret was about to stop being secret. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived every disaster their violent planet had thrown at them. They adapted. They endured. And when pushed, they became the most dangerous predators in existence. The Galactic tried to force humanity to kneel. The Black Armada made them burn. The ceremony was perfect. Earth's leaders stood on a platform in Geneva, surrounded by sovereignty dignitaries. Cameras from 1,000 news agencies broadcast the moment across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as humanity prepared to kneel. Counselor Marcus Webb approached the podium, his face appropriately solemn. Behind him, Supreme Archon Velrith stood tall, his 4 golden eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Today, Webb began, humanity accepts its place in the galactic sovereignty. We acknowledge our mistakes. We submit to your wisdom. His words were cut off by alarms. On every sovereignty warship in orbit, sensors suddenly screamed warnings, proximity alerts, energy signatures, mass readings appearing from nowhere. The Black Armada had dropped stealth. 74 warships materialized around the sovereignty fleet like ghosts becoming real. One moment, space was empty. The next, humanity's secret weapons surrounded their enemies completely. Fire, Admiral Chen said quietly from her command center. The quantum shear cannon spoke first. Beams of impossible energy that existed between dimensions reached out and touched sovereignty ships. Hull armor that could withstand nuclear weapons simply ceased to exist. Entire vessels split apart at the molecular level, their crews dying before they could even scream. The nanite swarms came next. Millions of microscopic machines launched from torpedo tubes, crossing the distance to enemy ships in seconds. They landed on hulls and began to eat, to reproduce, to consume. Within minutes, proud warships were being devoured from the outside in, their armor turning to dust. The sovereignty fleet tried to fight back. 500 ships against 74 should have been easy, but the Black Armada vessels were faster, more maneuverable, and completely invisible to conventional targeting systems. The sovereignty ships fired at shadows while humanity's weapons found their marks with perfect accuracy. Commander Park watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction. His ship, the Nightbringer, had already destroyed 6 enemy vessels. The quantum cannons were performing better than predicted. Each shot simply erased whatever it touched. Sovereignty flagship is trying to flee, his tactical officer reported. Reality anchor, Park ordered. A missile launched, crossing the distance in heartbeats. When it detonated, space itself seemed to freeze. The faster-than-light drives on every sovereignty ship within range simply stopped working. They were trapped, unable to escape into FTL. Now they understand, Park said coldly. They're prey and we're the hunters. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, 483 sovereignty warships were destroyed. Only 17 managed to retreat, badly damaged and running for their lives. The Black Armada had lost 0 ships. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display clear of red markers. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. Humanity had just won a battle that should have been impossible. But Chen didn't celebrate. This was just the beginning. Open a channel, she ordered. Galactic-wide broadcast. When the communication systems activated, her face appeared on screens throughout sovereignty space. Billions of aliens saw her for the first time. A human woman with cold eyes and an expression that promised violence. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force, she said clearly. The galactic sovereignty came to Earth demanding we kneel. They murdered 2.3 million of our people to make their point. They thought we were weak, she leaned forward. They were wrong. This is your only warning. Any sovereignty forces that approach human space will be destroyed. Any species that supports this tyranny will be considered hostile. We did not want this war, but now that you have started it, we will finish it. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, chaos erupted. The sovereignty had just lost an entire fleet to a species they considered primitive. The implications were staggering. Supreme Archon Velrith stood in his command center on the sovereignty homeworld of Caldrath Prime, staring at the casualty reports. Nearly 500 ships gone, destroyed by fewer than 100 human vessels. How? He demanded. How did they build such weapons? His intelligence chief, a nervous Velkhori named Sathrex, pulled up reports. They've been preparing since first contact, Archon. Every treaty they signed, they violated. While we watched their official military shrink, they built a secret fleet. Ships using technologies we banned, weapons that violate every law of civilized warfare. Civilized, Velrith repeated bitterly. They're animals. Violent, treacherous animals. Animals that just destroyed our fleet, Sathrex pointed out. Velrith's claws extended unconsciously. 15 years of looking down on humans as primitive warmongers. 15 years of confident superiority, all shattered in less than an hour. Call the council, he ordered. We will mobilize everything. 50,000 warships. The full might of the sovereignty. These humans want war? We'll give them extinction. But even as he gave the orders, doubt gnawed at him. The humans had hidden an entire fleet for 15 years. What else were they hiding? The answer came 3 days later. The Black Armada didn't wait for the sovereignty to mobilize. While Velrith gathered his forces, Admiral Chen struck first. Human ships appeared at sovereignty military bases across 3 sectors. They didn't fight fair battles. They didn't announce themselves. They simply materialized from stealth and destroyed everything. The shipyard at Carthex Prime, where the sovereignty built its dreadnoughts, was reduced to debris in 2 hours. The nanite swarms consumed the entire facility, leaving nothing but empty space where thousands had worked. The command station at Helios Point, the fortress that coordinated sovereignty forces in the outer territories, simply vanished. A reality anchor bomb created a field that collapsed the station's power core. The resulting explosion was visible from 3 light-years away. The ammunition depot orbiting Grekor's world should have been impossible to destroy. It was too well defended, too heavily shielded. The Black Armada sent in a captured sovereignty shuttle loaded with nanites. By the time security realized it was compromised, the swarms had reached the ammunition stores. The depot exploded with the force of a small star. Humanity was fighting a kind of war the sovereignty didn't understand. There were no honorable battles, no declarations, no mercy. Just ruthless efficiency and overwhelming violence delivered from the shadows. They fight like terrorists. Councillor Threx complained at the Sovereignty Council meeting. They fight like soldiers who want to win, Admiral Chen said in a message she broadcast to the entire galaxy. The sovereignty murders civilians to make political points. We destroy military targets to end threats. There's a difference. More and more species began to question the sovereignty's narrative. The humans had asked to be left alone. The sovereignty had attacked first, killing millions. Now the sovereignty called the humans monsters for fighting back? Cracks appeared in the coalition. The Narati, whose homeworld was light years from any fighting, quietly withdrew their ships. The Chithrax, remembering their own subjugation by the sovereignty centuries ago, began secret communications with Earth. The mighty coalition of 47 species began to fracture. Admiral Chen reviewed intelligence reports in her command center. The sovereignty was gathering its main fleet, 50,000 strong. A force that could sterilize entire worlds. In a straight fight, they would overwhelm the Black Armada through sheer numbers. We can't win a conventional battle, her strategic officer said. Then we don't fight one, Chen replied. We do what humans have always done when facing superior numbers. We cheat, we use terrain. We strike where they're weak and vanish before they respond. She pulled up a star map marking targets. The sovereignty has 50,000 ships, but they need supplies, fuel, ammunition, spare parts. They need communication networks and command structures. They need planets producing food and resources. She smiled coldly. Let's see how long that fleet stays together when we destroy everything supporting it. The Black Armada scattered across sovereignty space, becoming a nightmare that struck everywhere and nowhere. Supply convoys vanished. Command stations went silent. Factories producing weapons suddenly exploded from sabotage. The sovereignty had superior numbers. Humanity had superior tactics. And in war, tactics often mattered more than numbers. The galaxy watched in amazement as fewer than 100 human ships tied down an empire of trillions. The species who had been forced to kneel were now standing on the sovereignty's throat, and they showed no signs of mercy. The Galactic tried to force humanity to kneel. The Black Armada made them. Burn 18 months into the war, the galaxy no longer recognized itself. The galactic sovereignty, which had maintained peace for 3,000 years, was burning. Not from external invasion, but from internal collapse accelerated by humanity's relentless campaign. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a tactical display showing the entire war front. Red markers indicated sovereignty forces. Blue showed human assets. Green represented species that had broken away from the sovereignty. There was a lot of green now. "Intelligence report," she ordered. Captain Lisa Morrison pulled up the latest data. 12 more species have withdrawn from the Sovereignty Coalition this month. The Chithraks have formally allied with us. The Naredi are negotiating. Food production in Sovereignty core worlds has dropped 40% due to our disruption of trade routes. Military status? The Sovereignty's main fleet is still intact, 48,000 warships. But they're scattered, trying to defend too many locations. Morale is terrible. Desertions are increasing. Chen nodded slowly. The war was going better than she had hoped, and worse than she had feared. Humanity was winning, but the cost was mounting. The Black Armada now numbered 61 ships. They had lost 13 vessels in combat over 18 months. Each loss hurt. These weren't just machines. They were crewed by people who knew they might not come home. Commander James Park had died 4 months ago when his ship, the Nightbringer, took a direct hit from a Sovereignty dreadnought. He had stayed at his post long enough for his crew to evacuate before the reactor exploded. 300 souls saved. 1 life spent. Chen remembered them all, every captain, every crew member. She kept a list in her private quarters, names and faces. People who had died carrying out her orders. "Show me the Starhold Prime operation," she said. Morrison brought up the plans. Starhold Prime was the Sovereignty's capital station, orbiting their core world of Caldrath Prime. 20 million inhabitants, the political and military heart of the entire coalition, heavily defended by 3,000 warships and orbital weapons platforms. "Conventional assault is impossible," Morrison said. "We'd lose the entire armada and still fail." "So we don't do a conventional assault," Chen replied. "We do what we've been doing. We use their assumptions against them." 3 weeks earlier, human commandos had captured a Sovereignty dreadnought during a raid on a supply depot. The ship's crew was allowed to escape in lifeboats, spreading the story of a fierce battle and narrow retreat. The Sovereignty believed the damaged dreadnought had limped away to friendly space for repairs. They were wrong. The dreadnought was now crewed by humans and loaded with something far worse than conventional weapons. 50 billion nanites, programmed with one instruction: consume everything. "The dreadnought will dock at Starhold Prime in 72 hours, Chen explained to her staff. "It's broadcasting proper identification codes. They'll welcome it home. And then we activate the swarms." Counselor Webb, who had joined the meeting via secure channel, spoke up. "Admiral, there are civilians on that station, families, children." "I know," Chen said quietly. "They killed 2.3 million of ours, including children. New Perth had families too. That doesn't make this right." Chen met his eyes through the holographic display. "No, it doesn't. But it makes it necessary. If we don't break the Sovereignty completely, they'll regroup. They'll come at us again, and next time they won't be arrogant. They'll be thorough." The room fell silent. "I'll live with the nightmares," Chen continued. "I'll answer for this when the war is over. But right now my job is to ensure humanity survives. Everything else is secondary." Webb looked away. He couldn't argue with her logic, but he hated it anyway. The captured dreadnought approached Starhold Prime exactly on schedule. Its human crew wore Sovereignty uniforms taken from the captured vessel. They spoke the right languages, used the right protocols, acted perfectly normal. Station control welcomed them home. Maintenance crews prepared docking procedures. Medical teams stood ready to treat the wounded from the battle the crew had supposedly survived. The dreadnought docked. Umbilical connections were established. And in the engineering section, Commander Rachel Zhang activated the nanite release. The microscopic machines flooded through the connections into Starhold Prime's infrastructure. They moved through air ducts and power conduits. They spread like cancer, reproducing exponentially. By the time someone noticed the first signs of structural failure, It was too late. The nanites consumed everything. Metal became dust. Plastic dissolved. Even the organic material was broken down to base molecules. They didn't distinguish between military and civilian, between adult and child. They simply ate. People tried to evacuate. Lifeboats launched by the thousands. But the nanites had already compromised the docking systems. Most boats were consumed before they could escape. Those that did get away carried refugees who had watched their homes, their families, their entire world dissolve around them. In 6 hours, Starhold Prime ceased to exist. The greatest station in sovereignty space became a cloud of atomic dust. 18 million dead. The survivors would never stop having nightmares. The galaxy reacted with horror. Even species sympathetic to humanity were shocked by the brutality of the attack. This wasn't a military strike. This was annihilation. Admiral Chen addressed the galactic community the next day. Her face appeared on screens everywhere, looking tired and older than her years. Yesterday, Starhold Prime was destroyed, she said bluntly. 18 million beings died. I ordered this attack. The responsibility is mine alone. She paused. The sovereignty murdered New Perth to make us submit. They used terror as a weapon. They killed civilians to break our will. Now they know how it feels. Now they understand the fear they inflicted on others. Her voice hardened. I'm not asking for understanding. I'm not seeking forgiveness. I'm stating a fact. The sovereignty started this war by killing our innocence. We will end it by destroying their ability to threaten anyone ever again. If that requires more attacks like Starhold Prime, I will order them without hesitation. The message was clear. Humanity would do whatever it took to win. The rules of civilized warfare no longer applied. Supreme Archon Velrith watched the broadcast and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. Real, genuine fear. The humans weren't fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting for total victory, and they clearly didn't care about the cost. We need to end this, Counselor Sathrek said quietly. Negotiate peace before they destroy everything. No, Velrith hissed. If we show weakness now, the entire sovereignty will collapse. Species will abandon us. Our authority will be gone. Our authority is already gone, Sathrex pointed out. 12 species have left the coalition. 20 more are considering it. The humans are bleeding us dry. Velrith's claws scraped against his command console. Everything was falling apart. The sovereignty, which had stood for 3 millennia, was crumbling because of one species. One violent, clever, ruthless species that refused to accept its place in the natural order. There is one option left, Velrith said slowly. Sathrix went still. Archon, you can't mean the Star Killer, Velrith said. The weapon we swore never to use. It can ignite a sun, turn it into a supernova. One shot at Earth's sun, and humanity is gone, completely. No survivors, no revenge. Just extinction. That's genocide. That's survival, Velrith corrected. The humans have proven they can't be controlled, can't be reasoned with. They're too dangerous to exist, so we remove them from existence. The other species will never forgive us. I don't need forgiveness, Velrith said coldly. I need humanity dead. Orders went out in secret. The Starkiller weapon, hidden for centuries, was activated. A specialized ship was prepared. The mission was simple. Reach Earth's sun, deploy the weapon, trigger the reaction. Sol would go supernova, destroying everything in the system. But the sovereignty had forgotten something important. Humanity had spent 15 years infiltrating their space, learning their secrets, building networks of spies and informants. Not every alien supported the sovereignty's war. Some had come to respect the humans. Others simply wanted the fighting to stop. One of those aliens was a Chithrax communications officer named Zektal. He had access to classified transmissions. And when he saw orders for the Starkiller mission, he made a choice. He sent a message to Earth. Admiral Chen received the intelligence 36 hours before the Starkiller ship was scheduled to launch. She read the message 3 times, feeling ice in her veins. They were going to destroy the sun, kill everyone on Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, every human habitat in the Sol system. Billions of people erased in an instant. "Get me every ship we have," she ordered. "Recall everything. Maximum speed to Caldrath Prime." "Admiral?" Morrison asked, confused. Chen looked at her with eyes that burned with cold fury. "They want to kill our sun? Fine. We'll kill their world." The Galactic tried to force humanity to kneel. The Black Armada made them burn. The Black Armada assembled at the edge of sovereignty space. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier humanity could spare. 61 warships against the entire might of an empire. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vengeance, and looked at the tactical display. Between her fleet and Caldrath Prime stood 15,000 sovereignty warships, the largest defensive force ever assembled. "They know we're coming," Captain Morrison said. "Good," Chen replied. "I want them to know. I want them to be afraid." She opened a channel to all ships. Hundreds of faces appeared on her screens, young and old, veterans and rookies, people who had volunteered to fight impossible odds to save their homeworld. "We've spent 18 months showing the sovereignty what humans can do," she said. "We've fought them across 100 worlds. We've destroyed their fleets, shattered their alliances, and made them fear us. But now they've crossed the final line. They've built a weapon to destroy Earth, to kill every man, woman, and child in our home system." She paused, letting that sink in. "So we're going to finish this. Today. We're going to punch through 15,000 warships, reach Caldrath Prime, and end the sovereignty forever. Most of us probably won't survive. But humanity will. Earth will. And the galaxy will remember that you don't threaten the species from Sol." She looked at the camera, her expression hard as iron. "Make them burn." The Black Armada jumped to light speed. They emerged at the edge of the Caldrath system in a formation that was half battle plan and half suicide charge. Immediately, the Sovereignty fleet moved to intercept. 15,000 ships against 61. "Reality anchors full spread," Chen ordered. 20 missiles launched, each carrying a bomb that would lock down faster than light travel in a massive area. They detonated in a pattern that covered the entire system. Now neither side could escape. This battle would be fought to the end. Quantum cannons fire at will. Nanite swarms prioritize capital ships. All vessels maximum aggression. Break through their lines. The Black Armada crashed into the Sovereignty fleet like a hammer into glass. The stealth systems made them nearly impossible to target. Their weapons ignored conventional shields. And their crews fought with the desperation of people who knew their entire species hung in the balance. But 15,000 was 15,000. Even the best tactics and technology had limits. The human ship Retribution took 3 direct hits within the first minute. Its hull cracked open, venting atmosphere and crew. The captain, refusing to die uselessly, aimed his dying ship at a Sovereignty dreadnought and accelerated to ramming speed. Both vessels exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. The destroyer, after destroying 24 enemy ships, had its reactor damaged beyond repair. The crew had 30 seconds to evacuate. Only 8 people made it to the escape pods. 43 died with their ship. The Black Armada was being torn apart, but they were taking the Sovereignty fleet with them. For every human ship destroyed, they eliminated 50 enemy vessels. The numbers were terrifying. The courage was absolute. Admiral Chen watched ships die on her tactical display. Each one represented hundreds of people she had trained, commanded, sent into battle. The weight of it threatened to crush her. "Admiral, we've lost 23 ships," Morrison reported. "We can't sustain these losses." "We don't need to sustain," Chen said. "We need to break through. All remaining ships, focus fire on the center of their formation. Punch a hole to the planet." The Black Armada concentrated their attacks into a narrow corridor. Quantum cannons erased everything in their path. Nanite swarms consumed entire battle groups. Reality anchor bombs created pockets of locked space that trapped enemy vessels. The Sovereignty fleet fought hard, but they had never faced an enemy this determined. Human ships rammed when their weapons failed. Crews boarded enemy vessels and sabotaged them from within. Captains with disabled ships used their reactors as improvised nuclear bombs. The line broke. 12 human ships, all that remained of the Black Armada, punched through the Sovereignty fleet and accelerated toward Caldrath Prime. Behind them, thousands of enemy ships turned to pursue. We don't have enough ships to win, Morrison said quietly. We don't need to win, Chen replied. We need to reach the surface. The Sovereignty's leadership is down there. If we can take them out, the coalition collapses. The 12 ships entered orbit under heavy fire. 3 more died breaking through the orbital defense platforms. 9 ships remained. Deploy ground forces, Chen ordered. Drop pods launched from the surviving ships. They carried humanity's best soldiers, equipped with weapons that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Their mission was simple: reach the Sovereignty Council chambers and capture or kill Supreme Archon Velrith. Admiral Chen herself was in the first wave. She had given the orders that killed millions. She had destroyed Starhold Prime. She had led humanity into the darkest war it had ever fought. If this mission failed, if Earth burned because she wasn't there to finish it, she would never forgive herself. The drop pods screamed through the atmosphere, their heat shields glowing white-hot. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky. 7 pods were destroyed. Chen survived. She hit the ground running. Around her, human soldiers engaged Sovereignty defense forces. The battle was brutal and close quarters. No stealth, no clever tactics, just raw violence in the streets of an alien capital. Palace is 3 kilometers north, Lieutenant Sarah Kim reported. Heavy resistance. Push through, Chen ordered. We don't have time for caution. They fought their way through the city. Sovereignty soldiers who had never experienced real war broke under the human assault. These weren't civilized soldiers following rules. These were humans fighting for survival, and they showed no mercy. The palace loomed ahead, a massive structure of crystal and metal. Its guards tried to form a defensive line. Human soldiers used plasma charges to blow open the walls and flooded inside. Chen led her team through corridors filled with artwork and treasures from 1,000 worlds. The palace was a monument to the Sovereignty's power and reach. She barely noticed it. Her focus was singular. They reached the council chambers. The doors were sealed. Chen's demo expert placed shape charges and everyone took cover. The explosion blew the doors off their hinges. Chen's team rushed inside. Supreme Archon Velrith stood at the far end of the chamber, surrounded by the remaining council members. His 4 golden eyes widened in shock as humans in battle armor stormed into the heart of Sovereignty power. You can't be here, he said in disbelief. This is impossible. You said that about our ships too, Chen replied, aiming her weapon at him. You keep underestimating us. It's going to get you killed. Velrith straightened his spine, trying to maintain dignity. Kill me then. It changes nothing. The Star Killer is already launching. Your precious Earth will burn, Chen smiled coldly. No, it won't. We've had agents in your military for months. They disabled your Star Killer 3 weeks ago. You never checked because you were so confident. So arrogant. Just like you were confident your fleet would stop us. She saw the realization dawn in Velrith's eyes. The Star Killer wouldn't launch. His last weapon was gone. The Sovereignty was beaten. How? He whispered. How did primitives defeat us? We're not primitive, Chen said. We're human. We survive. We adapt, we win. You thought civilization made you strong, but you forgot that underneath all your culture and philosophy, survival is what matters, and humans have been surviving since before we had fire. She lowered her weapon slightly. Here are your options. You surrender unconditionally. You dissolve the Sovereignty. You stand trial for war crimes. You let the galaxy rebuild without your tyranny. And if I refuse, then I activate the nanite bombs my people have been planting across this planet for the last hour. Caldrath Prime becomes another Starhold Prime. Every citizen dies screaming as their world dissolves. Your choice, it was a bluff. Chen didn't have nanite bombs. But Velrith didn't know that. He had watched Starhold Prime die. He had seen what humanity was capable of. He believed the threat. He knelt. The Supreme Archon of the Galactic Sovereignty, ruler of 47 species and 3,000 years of history, knelt before a human admiral. We surrender, he said, his voice breaking. Chen felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Good, signal your forces to stand down. Now. Velrith gave the orders. Across the Caldrath system, Sovereignty ships stopped firing. The battle ended, humanity had won. But the cost was staggering. 52 ships of the Black Armada destroyed, thousands of soldiers dead, and the moral weight of everything they had done to achieve victory. Chen looked at the alien leader kneeling before her, and felt nothing but emptiness. You tried to make us kneel, she said quietly. We showed you what happens when you threaten humanity. I hope the lesson was worth the price. 10 years later, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a monument on New Perth. The colony had been rebuilt. 2.3 million names were carved into black stone, memorializing those who died in the Sovereignty's demonstration attack. The galaxy was different now. The Sovereignty had dissolved. New alliances had formed. Some species resented humanity's victory. Others respected it. Many feared it,